This week on Arts Insight, sweet artistic treats.
Chocolate is so interesting, just like coffee or wine. There's terroir that affects the way that chocolate tastes.
Crunching on numbers and good food.
I could have eventually gotten licensed in my own kitchen and figured that stuff out. Advantage is I didn't have to figure that out.
The art of the perfect cup of joe.
Coffee roasting is definitely, it's an art, it's a science.
And crafting amazing sugary creations.
I want people to enjoy looking at art in a different way so that they're not intimidated by it in any way.
I'm Ernie Manous, and it's time to get Arts Insight. Welcome to Arts Insight. Today's show is all about food. We're at the Culinary Institute Le Notre, where hundreds of students are learning the art of cooking. We'll get to see what they're up to in just a bit. But first, one Houstonian has found her calling in chocolate. With each delicate piece, she creates tiny, delicious works of art.
Chocolate is such a great medium for all spices and fruits, and I don't think many people have ever explored that. I started off with cardamom. That was the first spice that I ever used, and I made it cardamom rose. And so it was a white chocolate ganache infused with cardamom, a little bit of rose water, and dark chocolate on the outside. So that just opened up a whole world of anything that I tried at a restaurant I wanted to try in chocolate. My name is Annie Rupani, and I am a chocolate artist. Cacao is the fruit that chocolate comes from. Ironically enough, like the English language is the only one that turned cacao into cocoa. So very few people actually make the connection between cacao and cocoa, but it's essentially the same thing. The raspberry pistachio is dark and white, but it's delicious. Chocolate was one of those like interim things that I was like, okay, well, I'm gonna play with chocolate and try to figure out, well, where am I going? I was studying 6 days a week, and then I started taking a day off and playing with chocolates, reading artisanal books on chocolate. And that led to me going to pastry school in Malaysia. I never woke up and said, I'm gonna be a chocolatier. It just all sort of came into place. Initially, we started off by coloring the molds. Cocoa butter is the fat that's in chocolate, and we paint the molds with cocoa butter. The second step would be creating a shell inside of the mold. So we're trying to create a really thin shell. So when you bite into the chocolate, you have a crisp bite, and then you just get overwhelmed by the ganache, which will melt in your mouth. Ganache is basically an emulsion between cream and liquid in chocolate. So you can make a water ganache, or you can make a coconut milk ganache, and so we play with a lot of that. We make cream ganaches, which are the most normal, and then we also make fruit puree based ganaches. We also do coconut milk ganaches. So after we're done making our ganaches, which is where all the fun happens with the infusions and fruits, and then we pipe the ganache. We'll pipe it into the shell and let that set, and then we'll add another layer of chocolate to finish off the chocolate and stick it in the freezer for about 10 to 15 minutes so that it releases from the mold. The Buddhas are really popular. It's a Chinese spice praline, so it's a hazelnut praline with Chinese spice. There's milk chocolate on the inside and white on the outside. Chocolate is so interesting, just like coffee or wine. There's terroir that affects the way that chocolate tastes. So Colombian chocolate tastes different than Venezuelan chocolate. That'll taste different than Bolivian chocolate. So the chipotle will be dark. The s'mores, none of them are solid. They're all they all have an interior, like a ganache in the center. It's so accessible. Chocolate is on every candy bar. It's around when you grow up. It's just a part of everyday life. It's almost a category of its own.
And I love the Szechuan peppercorn.
Yeah, it's very unique. People are a little scared of it, but
not me.
It always surprises them. There is something associated with chocolate and happiness.
You can find out more at cacaoandcardamom.com. Now, as we mentioned earlier, we're at the Culinary Institute Le Notre, one of Houston's major teaching grounds for the culinary arts. Here to tell us all about what happens here is Director Marie Le Notre. Hello, Marie.
Bonjour.
Bonjour. There is so much going on here. First of all, tell me a little about the Institute.
Well, the Culinary Institute has been here since 1998. We have in several classes and programs. We have the culinary arts, pastry arts, decorative art, chocolate ice cream, and then we have the culinary arts management, hospitality, and restaurant management.
What I think is so fascinating what you folks do is that you've definitely recognized that we eat first with our eyes. So presentation is very important.
Yes, and this has been lately a big trend, as you know, with the competitions. When you do all the big chefs competitions, sometimes it's not important really what you put in your mouth, but how it looks.
Well, we've been wandering around today, and as we wander around, it looks like we're going into different artists' studios, watching them work and create, and that's a big part of this.
Yes, so we have, like for instance here, that's a classroom. They are making bread, they are making at the same time ice cream, they are making dough for cookies, and they are making also brioche or pain au chocolat.
So what's the trick to teaching all of these students to have a certain visual eye for what they do?
Well, first of all, you don't teach them, come here and they have already the tendency to be an artist. Yeah. You see, and here they just improve, and they find, with the help of their own teacher, they find the ways to express themselves even better. But they all want to do something with their skills.
Yeah. What is the hardest to work with to make something look beautiful? When you see these centerpieces, what do you know took the hardest work?
Oh my God, time. When I watch these students at the classroom, it is like you are in a monastery. You see, there's no noise. They are working. They are concentrating. It's like meditation.
Yeah.
So.
Well, as you send these wonderful artists out into the world, what's next for the school?
What's next? Well, as we have those artists in the culinary arts, pastries arts, but also at the same time we are open in the community and we are open in the culinary world. We are doing competitions. The school is growing. We have another campus, the South Campus. This is the North Campus. It's only classrooms.
Last thing before I let you go, to find out more about the school and the arts that go on here, where can they visit on the website?
On the website, culinaryyinstitute.edu.
Marie, thank you so much as always. There is definitely an art to good cooking, but there's also an art to good business. For those trying to break into the culinary world, the business side can be a bit of a stumbling block.
The kitchen started about 1.5 years ago, and really we realized that there was a gap in the Cleveland community where people just needed someplace to go where they wanted to start their businesses. Somebody will come to us and they'll say that they have a pasta sauce that's been in the family for generations and they want to go out and start marketing that to places like Heinen's and Giant Eagle and Constantino's. We'll sit down with them and tell them about the whole process, what's needed, everything from FDA specifications, what needs to go on the label, all the way to making sure that the product is stable. You don't want to have a product that's going to be sitting on the grocery store shelf and blowing up 6 months later. So we'll help them with all of that, pretty much from concept all the way to creation. From the time that they walk into the door till 2 months later when they have product in hand ready to sell.
Our company, Saucy Son, is an artisan meat company.
The name of my product is Home's Mouthwatering Applesauce.
My company is Red Lotus Foods.
The Pope's Kitchen is our brand, and our bottled about 16 products that we're making right now.
Clark, Jean, Ethan, and Melissa came to the Culinary Launch Kitchen with different levels of knowledge about the food industry and different food products in various stages of development.
What the kitchen really provided at the time I came in is a background and understanding that for the types of food that I create, I need an official canning license.
There's so much to take on. Anyone who's ever started a business knows that, and I needed that support.
Some of these amazing people can start out of their home and get their home approved to do their jams and things like that. Unfortunately, I can't. I needed a professional commercial kitchen to do it in, so that was the biggest step for us.
When somebody says, okay, I've got a product, it tastes great, I know I want to sell it, but I don't know what I need to do in order to get it on the shelves at Heinen's. That's where we'll really step in and assist them with making sure that they cover all the bases to make sure that everything is going to be shelf stable and is going to be safe for consumption. That's the biggest void. People also do have a hard time with figuring out where all the margins are. Obviously, they want to make a good product. They want to make this, their living, but they want to make sure that they're charging the right amount for products. We'll suggest different margins that they should anticipate in the marketplace, both with what they should make as well as what distributors and what retailers are normally asking for.
To assist entrepreneurs with getting their recipes ready for market, the Cleveland Culinary Launch Kitchen serves up a course about the food business where chefs learn everything from pricing to packaging.
We do offer an 8-week class that covers everything from financials. We'll work on business plans with them. And then at the end of 8 weeks, as long as we're happy with how everything worked out with the class, then we'll invite them to become members of the kitchen. At that point, the help really never ends. We'll assist them with making sure that they scale their products up correctly so that if they're making 10 bottles of barbecue sauce and want to make 1,000, we can assist with making sure that they do all the calculations correctly.
The kitchen has basically showed me that things are possible, and they've also showed me the steps to create and to get to those like Heinen's and all those markets that I've recently acquired. They've also showed me a lot of knowledge, taught me a lot about health standards. I also did a class with the state of Ohio on basically just being in the kitchen the proper ways, washing your hands, and just managing everything. And so all of those steps have led me to where I am today.
Since the Culinary Launch Kitchen opened, they've been involved in bringing dozens of new products to market. To meet the demands of so many different products, CCLK is equipped with a fully licensed commercial kitchen.
We have the kitchen divided up into several different stations. All sorts of commercialized equipment that you would find in a restaurant and not so much at home.
Well, it's extremely important to have a kitchen that is fully licensed and that is available 24 hours a day. I have the flexibility to use it whenever I'm available.
Automatically on day one, you step into the kitchen and take it from a hobby to a real business. So that I am presenting myself to the public as a real business. You're safe, I'm insured, we're covered, because to be a part of the kitchen, you have to have the right insurances.
For all of the support that the Cleveland Culinary Launch Kitchen offers budding entrepreneurs through seminars, training, and shared space, perhaps the most important resource of all is the relationships and connections that the Launch Kitchen users forge between themselves.
The networking that I got as a result of being at the kitchen, the support from other new business owners.
At some point in time, you're going to find yourself in a situation that another tenant's already been in. And so, everybody becomes, we become friends. And, you come in and you're like, oh man, I'm dealing with the health department. I don't know what they want. And they're like, oh my gosh, I just went through this. And so, everyone's really willing to give advice and kind of help you through and coach you.
It's the rising tide rises all ships motif. And so you've got that asset. I could have eventually gotten licensed in my own kitchen and figured that stuff out. Advantage is I didn't have to figure that out.
Find out more at cleculinarylaunch.com. Moving right along, coffee connoisseurs are dedicated to creating the ultimate drink. Controlling every step of the process is key to brewing that perfect cup.
I think coffee roasting is a cool synthesis between science and art, because there is a chemical reaction that's happening to the bean. You put those two kind of things together, and that's when the magic of coffee roasting really happens.
Coffee roasting is definitely, it's an art, it's a science. There's a lot of temperature tracking. And in the first part of the roast, we're really looking to see like a really rapid gain in that roast, which just sets the rest of the roast off really well. So there's some science there, there's some chemistry and whatnot. We're converting the bean and some of the flavors into sugars. We're creating some different compounds that are very complicated.
That process takes a ton of time. It's really almost always an ongoing 12-hour process of roasting and cupping just to get our recipe, or what we call our roast profile, right. Which basically in essence means bringing out the best that bean has to offer, all the little subtleties and nuances to bake the cup. Absolutely fantastic. So you couple, buying the best beans in the world with roasting them correctly, and then ultimately preparing them right, it's a better cup. And that's what people discovered.
The art aspect is well in there. It's just like thinking about the bean, where it came from, what you're trying to do with it, and it's just putting Buddy Brew's personal kind of flavor stamp on there. It's like, you're kind of tasting our palate, is what you're saying. It could be another roaster with the same style of bean, and they wouldn't roast it the same way as we did it. There's just so many different areas along the way to drop it or to finish it, and how you get there is a big thing. So we really highlight what we like when we serve a cup of coffee. So you're kind of drinking a little part of, of what we have to offer.
I got to roast alongside, one of the geniuses in coffee roasting, Stephen Diedrich, and really, that guy's just a master. And so I learned from the best of the best. Now I was able then to take that knowledge and really pass it along to our other roasters as well. It takes years to become, a proficient roaster and really able to control everything you need to control.
The art of it, to me, is watching it and these indicators. You can watch temperature and you can watch the time, but you can really influence the bean through, judging by color and seeing what it looks like and the sound. You're always listening. There's a big thing on smell. When it comes into yellow, you leave if you smell the beans in that kind of transition point, it goes from this wet kind of lawn clippings, grass clippings, to more of this dry hay. Again, it's like you have the numbers there as the science, but the art, you're kind of watching the color, you're kind of telling what's happening in there through the aroma.
Coffee's been around for a long, long time. There's a lot of different stories of where it was actually first found, but the reality of it is that a shepherd saw these goats eating these cherries, and all of a sudden they got very, very excited and almost agitated. It was like, something's going on there. And that's really how the caffeine in the coffee was actually first found. We set out by saying, okay, if we're going to do this thing, the cup is going to be our judge. Whatever happens right here, this is it. If this is right, then all else is well, right? The interesting thing, though, is that if you look at how we're preparing coffee today, we're actually going back in time. Even like Melita, which is a pour-over. They were really the inventors of the pour-over. Melita, another local company based out of Clearwater. Their first cone was developed in the early 1900s, in 1905 or something like that. And so you look at how we make coffee today, it's not too dissimilar to what they were doing way back then. The difference, though, is that we are coffee freaks. So we look at every single detail of what we're doing. We control it all. We control the exact water to temperature, the exact dose of water, right down to a tenth of a gram of how much coffee we're using to do these methods. And then we control the exact extraction every single time we do it. So the cup is the same every single time.
One of the things that we try to keep in mind, especially on the brewing side of it, is that we really don't want to mess it up. We get the coffee already in a pristine condition. So we're sourcing great coffee, we're roasting it to perfection, and then what we do as brewers is not mess it up.
A barista isn't just a bartender. Really, a barista is almost a combination between a bartender and a chef, because they're literally cooking, creating this drink, just like a chef is creating, a cupcake or something. They're doing something. They're changing and creating.
And espresso, if you look at the root of the word, it refers to espressly for you. So it's really not about speed. It's about I'm making a drink just for you. And as a brewer, we start with those real simple aspects when we're brewing a coffee, and all of those parameters are really the same. We start with great water, great coffee, grinding the coffee correctly for each method, and then just really tasting coffee, getting an idea of what's the difference between the coffee flavor and the brewing flavor.
Buddy Brew is more than just about coffee. It's always been more than just about coffee. So we believe, one, that the farmer is really important, and so part of what we've always set out to do is really help them become sustainable kind of businesses through the money that we can bring back to them by purchasing their coffee. You know, and in doing that, then we can maybe help build a school or a medical facility or a church or whatever. Our saying is brew good, do good. And, you know, brew good is everything we really would just talk about. It's about the cup of coffee. Like, in the end, this is our judge. Doing all those pieces from sourcing the right coffee to roasting it to sweet, delicious perfection to actually creating the cup of coffee itself. That's the brew good part. The do good piece is the people. It's about the community that's created here and pressing out into the community and making a difference. And every single day when people come in and they get a cup of coffee, you can see the difference you make, because a lot of times these people are waking up, it's the first cup, and from the moment that pre-coffee person to that post-coffee person, it's kind of cool what happens there. So we believe that there's power in this cup of coffee, and that we have to respect that whole thing. And so the do good piece is all about that love that we pour out from Buddy Brew, whether it's happening here or out in the community.
To learn more, visit buddybrew.com. And finally tonight, mandala art born out of the Buddhist traditions features expressions and patterns representing the universe. Now the art is taking on a whole new form.
It does take concentration. It does take a certain perfectionist personality type. Yes, it's a process. You have to really kind of push yourself through it. Well, I started about 2 years ago. I was working with some candy boxes. So I started creating and people really started to respond, and that's how it started. The different kinds of mandalas I make, I've started with candies, right? And then I started incorporating different found objects because the candies are great. I love how bright they are. And then I just decided, well, let me see how they look with other types of objects. So I did architectural salvage objects. I did silk flowers. I've done keys, and then I do digital collage types of pieces. So all different kinds of things. The Tibetan Buddhist monks, they make mandalas out of sand, and it's like a prayer. So they are creating, and it's several days often that they take, and they are creating these little beautiful, intricate patterns with the sand. And then at the end, they blow it away to symbolize the impermanence of life, which is in the Buddhist tradition. So I have some galleries. I have one in New York. I actually have two in New York. One is in the Hamptons, and then I have one in Boston right now, and then I'm working on some more, possibly in Miami. I'm going to go to the West Coast soon. It's a wonderful opportunity I had. I've always wanted to travel, so I took a job teaching abroad in Moscow several years ago, and then I ended up in Budapest. So living abroad, I got to travel a lot.
So I'm going to show you guys my process today so you can see a little bit about how I do it, and then I want to see how you guys make them. And remember, you can use any kind of material you want.
Vanity Fair Italy called me, or not called me, but they emailed me and asked if they could use one of my images and do a little feature on me, and I was so excited I couldn't even believe it. They had found me through an online art publication called Artsy, and they took an image and put it right into a page and called it Yum Art, and featured me in there. So yeah, it was wonderful. The difference is that I take the objects and I hand place every single one of them, and then I have a photographer come in and shoot it. With the digital ones, they are actually much more labor intensive. I didn't think they would be. So the digital ones involve a lot of different layers, like actually about 50 or 60 different layers of objects that I have to place by hand with my mouse. So it's a different process entirely. So as I work, I start from the center and go out. I'm thinking about color. I'm thinking about color relationships. I'm thinking about design. I'm thinking about variety. I'm thinking about textures. It's really the elements of art and principles of design come right into play there. Value, form, texture, color, all of these things that I used to teach, they play right into it. like to create that symmetry because it's a peaceful feeling when you have everything in this beautiful type of pattern where it's all, but there are some slight imperfections which make it more interesting. I am constantly searching for candy everywhere I go. I'm always on the lookout for new and interesting candies. Every single checkout line I go through, I keep my candy. I reuse it as much as possible until I can't reuse it anymore. But it does look different in every single mandala because it's constant. It's like a color. It's like my paint. It's my medium. So I'm always looking for different kinds of candy and finding it everywhere I go. I want people to feel inspired by my work. I want people to enjoy looking at art in a different way so that they're not intimidated by it in any way. I love to be light and love to be fun and use your intellect at the same time.
For more information, visit PaulaMBrett.com. And that does it for all of us in this foodie edition of Arts Insight. For all of us here at Houston Public Media, I'm Ernie Manous. Thanks for watching and have a great week.